YouTube. All right, so with some help, I got the hood remounted. After I had it on the bench and pulled that inner duct off. You know, these Crossfires had this like built-in hood scoop with a rubber dam that came down on the intake on the old motor. Obviously that needed to come off. I know I'm going to have to open the hood up to clear the top of the intake and the throttle body, so I needed to get it fitted and see where I've got to take some fiberglass off to clear the engine, and then see what I'm going to do with a scoop. Joined by Maggie, the shop dog, today, hanging out in the garage. Who's a good girl? Yeah, it's a beautiful Florida morning. I don't know how long I'll be able to go today. See how hot it gets in here. I can't wait to get in a full shop. I'm working on it right now. I was actually looking at property yesterday. I get some air conditioning, get some big fans going. This tiny garage is killing me, man. I'm so used to having a big shop. It's like totally 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. So here's the conundrum. Now I've got my heart set on running this intake straight off the throttle body and down in front of the core support, so I can get fresh air from under the nose. I mean, theoretically, it'd be easier if I just run an elbow and I could run the filter down in front of the motor, but then I'm pulling all this hot air, and of course, it's not a ton of room down there. So there's obviously no room to fit a 4-inch pipe in that gap. So there's a couple different ways I'm gonna use to mitigate that and give me some more room. I am gonna take some fiberglass off of here and open this up to clear some of the pipe. That's not going to be enough. What I'm also going to do is this core support can actually be moved. It's only held on really with 2 bolts on each side down in the wheel wells. You can see that metal bracket is what supports it through the fiberglass. I've already taken the top bolt out. So what I can do is drill a second set of holes slightly rearward to let this core support lean back towards the motor a little bit. And a little bit will open that up quite a bit. So I'm going to drill those out and slide the top of the core support, tilt it back towards the motor about a 1/2 inch. That'll open up some. And then I'm also going to use some aluminum intake tubing. And what I can do with this is, since it's rigid, I'm not worried about it collapsing under suction from the intake. I can actually collapse this into an oval, and it'll keep the flow rate about the same. I'm not going to, create a restriction by ovaling it. Maggie, hey, back in here, dummy. Where are you going? No touring the neighborhood naked. Come on. And so I can actually collapse this a little bit, probably get it down to 2 inches or so, and make it hug the front of the condenser as it goes down to clear the hood when it's open. The third thing I'm going to do is, this hood opens real wide, which is, I'm not a fan of front opening hoods, but it is what it is. So what I can also do is shorten the strut. And that's about where it's going to sit now. And I can't move the bolt holes because it's got supports that are attached inside. And I don't want to try fishing new hardware down the side. That's a pain in the ass. So what I can do a lot easier is just take the strut and I can cut it, shorten it by 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, and re-weld it together. And I think that's what I'm going to do there. So, if the hood doesn't open quite as far, I've got a lot more room there. Because, of course, as the hood opens, that lower support gets closer. The more you open the hood, the closer that support gets to the condenser. So if I lower the hood a little bit, and I don't think I can do this one-handed, so I'm not gonna. But if I lower the hood a little bit, it actually opens that gap up quite a bit. So that's my order of operations. I think I'm gonna re-drill these holes. I already got some of the hardware loose. These front hinge bolts actually go down in front of that bolt that I had to remove, so I had to loosen those up to get it out of there. So I'm gonna tilt the core support a little bit, and that'll open it up. And then I'll shorten the hood strut and drop the hood angle a little bit, which is fine. I mean, if it's got to be front open, it's got to be front opening. Right now, I've got a ton of room to work on this motor, so I can afford to drop this hood a couple of degrees and give me some more room to come over with it. And so that's it. So I'm going to get drilling, drop this core support, see how much of a change I've got in the gap, and then we'll take off this hood lift, the hood support, and shorten that, and see where we're at. And then the last step would be taking some plastic off the bottom of that hood strut. I mean, I don't want to unnecessarily take fiberglass off that hood support, because it is a support. And you don't want that front of the hood to be floppy or start cracking for lack of support underneath. I mean, the hood's, I'm not this hood isn't special. It's already got a couple of cracks and some defects in it, so I wasn't worried about, you know, saving it or it being perfect. But I don't necessarily want the hood to crack right up the middle because I took all the support out of the front. So if I can avoid trimming that support, that'll be great. But if I've got to take, you know, a half an inch off of it, or, you know, that'll be fine as well. I could always, you know, re-support it with a little bit of steel in there, you know, strap both sides of that support to give it some more stiffness. That'll have a lower profile, but still give it the support it needs. So that's it. I'm going to get drilling, move the core support, and I'll touch back with you as soon as that's done, see where we move to. All right, so here's where we're at. Holes are opened up. As you can see, the core support's already shifted towards the rear a little bit. This is the driver's side. So I can put a little pressure and shift it down a little more. And that's going to open up a little more of a gap. In fact, it's a little bit wider already because it's already shifted a 1/4 of an inch. Another 1/4 of an inch will open that up quite a bit. And it's also going to tilt this down, give this a little bit of a lower profile too. Maybe give me a little more room. I'm going to use flexible ducting, the you know, silicone duct across the top and down. Mass airflow is going to sit up here, and then this is all going to be soft ducting on the way down. So when the hood comes down, if it ovals it, that's okay. A little bit. I don't want it to have too much pressure and squish it flat, obviously. There's still 3 inches between the top here and the underside of the hood when it's closed, so that'll be fine. I'm not overly concerned about that. Worst comes to worst, I can use another piece of shaped aluminum and squish that down to give me an oval instead of a round profile. But so far, so good. All right, so the core support's adjusted back as far as I'm comfortable going, and as you can see, we've got 2 1/4 inches now between the condenser and the hood strut, the hood support rather, that crossbar down there. I'm still going to trim that up some most likely, but right now I'm going to try, let's see how much I have to lower the hood to open that up. But like I said, if I can get away without having to take any of the structure out of the nose of the hood, I'd be a lot happier, but I'd be okay taking a little bit out because there's stuff I can do to stiffen it back up. But let's take a look and see how much room we have with the hood coming down a little bit. See if I can find a place to put the phone so you can watch what's going on. All right, so that's adjusted down for to compensate for an inch shorter support at the front of the hood. If I shorten this guy by 1 inch, the hood will sit here. If I can back up and give you a better view. Still plenty of underhood access. I'm okay with that. It could probably come a little bit lower, but you know, then you start really, you want to be able to get in here, work on the front of the motor. Will be a lot tighter with the hood hanging over your head. And that gives me 3 1/4 inches clearance. Now remember, I'm trying to fit a 4-inch pipe in there. That's 3 1/4 inches. So now all I've got to do, I don't think I'll have to remove any of that hood support, at all, which makes me a happy boy. And then I'll just oval that aluminum tube that's going down the front and attach it to the core support. And that front bar is not the sway bar. That's actually a support strut that runs between the front frame rails. So I can attach the air filter to that and keep it up and nice and tight to the condenser, but not where it'll, you know, rub into it. I think that'll do it. Let me get working on this stuff so I can get this ducting together and see how it works out. Oh yeah, and here's how it looks in the fender. So you can spray paint that sucker black. I probably will when I'm all done. And get some rust converter and some black paint. And you never even know it was done, so it's not like it's a big ugly sloppy hole up there. I use fender wash. Alright, so far so good. I shortened the duct that moves the mass airflow off the core support. You get it back here. As the hood closes, it does touch up here, so I can either clearance the hood or I can allow for a little bit of squish, because this is soft hose. It'll actually push the mass airflow down a little bit too. It doesn't touch the mass airflow, but the hood arcs. It curves down right there. As a matter of fact, you can see a bit of a, right about where that light spot is. It's not actually from touching the hose. It actually hits over here, but which brings me to an important point. As you notice that it's not centered in the hood. And that's because on C3s, the engine's offset to the passenger side 1.5 inches. Apparently it's to allow extra room in the driver's side footwell, but the engine is actually offset about 1.5 inches. So I have a wait and see attitude about this hood opening, because I'm not a fan of having off-center hood openings unless you make them look cool, and I just don't know. So I'm going to clearance the hood so the motor sits through, and then see if I can come up with a scoop or something to cover it, or maybe even do like a one of those aluminum LS covers sticking through the hood, kind of like a shaker style. So we'll see. I'm going to keep going for it, and I've got to crunch down my aluminum tube down and fit it in and see how that fits up. Of course, it's getting ever hotter here in Central Florida in the middle of August, so I don't know how much more I got in me. I've already dropped about 2 gallons of sweat. We'll see how it goes today. All right, so the tube's in. Worked well. You can see I've got room in here. I can tie that tube off, and again, I could still come down with the hood a couple degrees if I want to. Give me some more room up there. Now I've got to go underneath and find room to put this big ass K&N cone filter in there. Basically, the filter is going to fit right up here in the nose. I just got to cut the tube off to length. This will fit right up inside, and I can run a strap down to support it. So I'm going to have to cut that. I'm going to cut that tube off. So I'm going to grab a Sharpie and mark it, and I'm going to saw it off and then reattach it. All right, so it's in. As you can see, we've got clearance between the condenser and the hood. When the hood's closed, obviously, that pipe should float in there. I'm still going to put a little piece of rubber or foam padding on the back side of that tube just to keep it from vibrating against the condenser and wearing through it. Filter is in. Tie it up out of the way, not interfering with anything. Get some nice fresh cool air in off the ground. Now all I've got to do now is shorten that hood support to get the right hood angle when it's open, and we're good. Because remember, as this thing goes, let's see if I can grab the board at the same time. As the hood comes down and closes, the gap up there opens up. So once we're driving, once the hood's closed, under driving, there's going to be no issues. Right now, obviously, that would buzz like crazy, but I'm not driving with the hood open. So yeah, all in all, pretty good. Nice morning's work. Let me cut that hood strap down, hood support, and then I'll have to get that welded up. I don't feel like doing any welding today. It's just too darn hot in here already. I need to start working on the exhaust too, so I think I might fab that hood support and the exhaust at the same time. See if we get a cool morning, get out here early. All right, thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.